episode 275 of the Various Summary Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Harmon, joined live from the Vault Studio on the beautiful campus of Grace College and Grace Theological Seminary by my good friend and my colleague, my co-host, and the man who does not do his own taxes, John Scott Sloat.
Never done my own taxes.
It's handy having a father who is an accounting magician.
Yeah, CPA.
Yeah.
CPA, my father, who does my taxes for me.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know. I know that I need to upload all those pieces of paper that come in the mail to me that say tax on them. I upload them to an online portal, and when my dad gets to it, he calls me and tells me the damage or the joy, know.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. What do I need to do to get on the Scott Sloat tax client list?
Probably it's a good question. I don't know. Some dinners maybe. I don't.
I see.
You gotta butter them up.
Got to grease the skids a little bit. Okay.
That's right.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see about that. Every year we get to this time and I think, why am I still doing this myself? Why am I not just passing this off? Because
it's expensive to
pass it off. That's the thing. So,
but you want to know what situation I'm in? You've had like this slow building experience where I imagine you've been doing your own taxes since you were 25.
Well, since I graduated from college and got married.
Yeah. So you've been doing your taxes.
23.
I imagine your taxes at 23 were pretty simple.
Oh, heck yeah.
And then you've sort of had this growing with the process and just sort of doing them year after year after year as they've grown in complexity.
Yes. What makes mine complex is the book royalties and honorariums.
Sure.
Because then I'm technically a self-employed individual.
Right. But you've added that slowly as even that's gotten more complicated. You've added it slowly.
Yeah.
I am going to come into a point in life where I no longer have free taxes done for me. And I'm going to have to hire somebody at that point because I will not know which way is up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, your situation will be complex, I'm guessing, because of investment stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. That makes it complex.
A lot of investments make it complex.
Can. Now, if you're just buying and not selling, you're okay.
No, I'm not selling anything yet.
Okay.
Certainly not this week. You kidding me?
Yeah.
Not selling this week.
This is not the time to sell.
My goodness.
Time to buy, right?
Time to buy and grit your teeth.
There you go.
Hold on.
There you go. Well, if you would like to contact the show and get more stock market advice from John Sloat, you can contact the show at V&S Pod. You can email the show, variousandsundrypodcast@gmail.com, or, as one of our listeners did, you can just find our email addresses on the Grace website and email us.
That's right.
Yes. So
that's right.
Grateful for that email. Thank you. And on Facebook, on YouTube, would you please just leave a 5-star rating for the love? Like, if you haven't done it, just do it. It literally takes less than 30 seconds. You can put all the snark in a comment you want on the actual review.
Yeah.
But just leave the 5-star rating. Just do it. You know you want to. Just be that guy or girl.
Feel the need.
Yeah. All right, John, let's talk some sports. College basketball dominating the landscape over the weekend here. Final 4 games. Did you watch either of them?
I dipped in and out, and then I fell asleep.
Okay. So Florida beat Auburn, and I think by 6. I think.
Yeah.
So it was a good game. That was a very high-level, entertaining basketball game. So even though I'd selected Auburn to win that game.
You enjoyed it nonetheless.
Yeah, and even though Auburn was up, I think they were up 8 at the half. But Florida erased that 8-point deficit in the first 3 minutes of the second half. And from that point forward, I'm like, yeah, Florida's going to win because they got that Clayton kid that is just crazy clutch and just impossible to defend.
I have a friend of mine who is a graduate of Auburn and a big Auburn fan.
Okay. Yeah.
Is struggling immensely.
Yeah. Him and Charles Barkley.
Yeah. Him and Chuck.
Yeah. So
Who he's met.
I thought that was the case. Yeah. So Florida advances on to the national championship game, and then the game of the night. As good as that game was,
probably the game of the tournament. Is that a fair statement?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Houston rallies to stun Duke at the end. The
Yes.
game that Duke controlled the whole way. They were up 14 with like 8 minutes to go. And then up 9 with like 2.5 to go. And
Have you seen the win probability? That's
Yeah.
like an exponential curve all of a sudden for Houston.
Yeah. So
What do you think of the foul?
It's a bad call.
Is it a bad call?
I think so. But here's the thing. People are going to focus on that, and it's a bad call. But Duke turned the ball over. They missed free throws. Like if they do what you're supposed to do, that doesn't even happen or doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then they still had a shot from their best player, a top 10 NBA draft pick coming up in June, and he missed it. That would have won the game. So Duke's got no one to blame but themselves in terms of that collapse. But Houston is just so good defensively. They just smother you. And it'll be an interesting game. Now, this episode will drop
After the game
game's
is
been
played.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who you got? You got Florida, you got Houston. I had originally picked – my title game was Auburn and Houston with Auburn winning. So we'll get to the bracket challenge in a minute. But I'm going to go with Houston.
You're gonna go. I'll go with Florida for parity.
Okay. All right.
I was been in Gainesville this year.
There you go. There you go. So it's been a good tournament. A lot of chalk, obviously,
A lot of chalk. Yeah.
but that was a very entertaining game. I mean, I remember texting with someone, when it was 40 seconds left and Duke was up 3 or 4. I'm like, they're like, oh, this is kind of. I'm like, it's Duke's not gonna lose this. This shows what I know. But fascinating turn of events there. Do we want to check on the bracket challenge here?
Sure. I think the bracket challenge is pretty much set in stone.
Yeah, I think it's down to 2 people.
And they both – well, the top 4 people in places 1 through 4 all have Florida winning.
Right. So if Florida wins, then Blake wins the bracket competition. Have you looked at who wins if Houston wins?
Is it your wife?
It is.
That's great. I'm sure she's thrilled.
Yes. So
Nobody else had Houston, huh?
yeah. So she would win. If Houston wins, she will win the bracket competition.
Literally nobody else chose Houston, a 1 seed.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild?
I had him making my final, but not winning it. And I remember debating. But in any case, Blake's been wire to wire.
Yeah, he's been up there the whole time.
Yeah, it would be funny to see him lose going wire to wire and then lose,
Is he in the mentoring group?
No.
No, he's not. Okay.
He is in my New Testament theology class right now, though. So, and then I guess here's the thing. My wife has all of my books.
And unlimited access to your signature.
Unlimited access to them. Yeah. So I suppose if she wins, we might have to give the second place person, which that's going to be Blake.
No matter what.
No matter what.
Yep.
So it's looking good for Blake to get a signed copy of something.
What do you think he'll want?
That's a good question.
Do we let people choose?
Yeah.
We do? Okay.
Yeah.
I could not remember.
Yeah. I will say it's nice that he's local so we don't have to pay to ship it somewhere.
Have we ever done that? Have we ever had to pay to ship it? Maybe once?
Maybe once. I don't know.
Well, we're making big bucks off the advertisements, so
Yes. Yes, indeed. So next week, we will announce officially the winner of the bracket.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Tell me about baseball. What's going on? We're about, a week plus?
Little week plus, 10 days.
Okay. And how are the Mets doing?
6-3, something like that. Right. So we just swept the Toronto Blue Jays with the new Vladimir Guerrero signed an extension over the weekend. I don't know if you saw that.
I didn't, no.
15 years, $550 million, something like that. So he will be a Toronto Blue Jay seemingly for the rest of his life.
15 years.
15 years, yes.
How old is he?
Like 24, 25 maybe.
I mean, we can archive this. Not that we'll still be – I'm assuming we're probably not doing the podcast in 15 years. That's my guess.
That'd be my guess also.
Yeah. I don't think he finishes his career as a Toronto Blue Jay.
You don't think so?
No.
You think he just gets traded at some point?
Yeah.
Or they just eat the contract and say, get out of our lives?
Yes. Yes. I mean, these like ridiculously long-term contracts just typically don't seem to actually end up being fulfilled.
Yeah. Well, inflation changes these contracts a ton as well.
Yeah.
$550 million is not going to be what it used to be at the start of that contract.
Yeah. How's he going to survive on that, in like 10 years?
Well, Toronto's not cheap.
Exactly.
I mean, you got to have a place in Toronto and Florida and the Dominican Republic.
And you've got to have your own private jet to get back and forth between these places.
That's right.
You can't be relying on commercial airliners to get you back and forth to places.
Well, and you can't walk or drive to the private airport. You need a helicopter.
Obviously. So, I mean, you got to have the plane. You got to have the and you got to have a pilot pretty much like on your personal payroll so that at a moment's notice, you're like, hey, let's go down to the Dominican Republic.
There was a guy that lived 2 doors down from me, maybe 3 doors down, who was a personal pilot for somebody in Fort Wayne. And his whole job was like, I'm kind of at the beck and call of the family. If they want to go somewhere, they give me a day's head notice. I drive to the airport, get their plane ready to go, and fly them where they want to go.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
And did you have a sense of like how often that happens?
He was home a lot.
Okay.
He was home a lot.
Because that's a gig that could go, depending on how often you're used, it could be a sweet gig.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like if you're used once every couple of weeks, where you're out of, you're, I don't know, probably depends on how long you're gone, how far away you're flying, but still,
It was, he was telling me about it. Had a sports car in his garage.
Okay. So he must be doing all right.
He seemed to be doing fine.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So that's how the other side lives. And you live 2 doors down. Okay. Makes sense. So the Mets are 6-3.
6-3, swept the Blue Jays, and we've got the Miami Marlins coming to town. So the Miami Marlins are supposed to be historically bad, but they've had a bit of a hot start to the season. You know who hasn't had a hot start to the season?
I'm guessing you're going to tell me maybe the Yankees?
No, I think the Yankees have had a hard
season.
The Atlanta Braves.
That would be my other guess.
Like 0-8 to start the season? Not good.
Well, that is not good. You're right. But they're going to be a contender.
They're going to be
They'll figure it out.
They'll figure it out. Yes, I 100% agree.
Yeah. For sure.
100% agree. They'll figure it out, but have not had a good start to the season. But it is fun to pop down in the basement on a Sunday afternoon, open up the laptop, baseball in the background. Oh, it's lovely.
Do you have baseball on during the week as you're working?
At work?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, not while at work. But on the drive home, maybe if there's a game on, I'll put on the radio, or in the evening doing dishes, I'll have the radio going, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, and you know what this upcoming week is? in sports.
This upcoming week.
Yeah, starting Thursday.
What is it?
A tradition unlike any other.
Yes. Yes. The Masters.
That's right. Yes. So on Thursday, you know who you need to text.
Oh, yes. Is it his birthday on Thursday?
No, his birthday was yesterday.
I missed it. I need to text him.
But he's coming up. He's coming up this next weekend
To watch the Masters?
for us to celebrate.
Okay.
So, I mean, maybe you'll get to see him in church on Sunday then. Maybe.
You know, were you ever a Dan Patrick Show fan?
On rare occasion. I like Dan Patrick. I just never listened to the show.
I don't know if he still does it because I listen to him when I travel, mostly because I'm trying to fill the time of traveling.
Yeah.
But every week of the Masters, they do a Jim Nantz sound-alike competition, which I think Jim Nantz is off the Masters now. Is that right?
I don't think so. He retired from doing basketball.
But he's still doing golf.
I think he's still doing the Masters.
So they have a Jim Nantz sound-alike, like sort of his opening monologue to the stuff.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll send that to your son.
You should. You should. I think
And occasionally a guy calls in that sounds better than Jim Nantz. And they've had Jim Nantz on to participate in the Jim Nantz sound-alike competition.
If you mixed him in, like, hello, friends.
Hello, friends. The azaleas are blooming.
Yes. So
the birds are chirping.
Yeah. So
we can move on.
My oldest son, he just for some reason grew up with an irrational hatred of the Masters.
He did, yeah.
And now it's become a thing where I've gotten his college friends to harass him about it. I've got you harassing him about it.
Yeah, and he's leaned into it. He's had good fun with it.
He has. So I remember it was a while ago where we just bombarded him on the opening day of the Masters one year.
1 year on his birthday.
Yeah,
we had like 7 or 8 people texting him
just
about
bombarding his phone with text. It was great. Yes. So yeah, I haven't followed, who's playing well, who's not playing well. So I'm really not in any position to guess who's going to win. But
I have no idea.
I will say golf is one of those sports where watching it in 4K does feel like it's different. Because you have a beautiful golf course and just the crispness and the clarity of the television capturing that natural beauty. It's something. It's something. All right. Ready to move on, John?
Sure.
All right. Time for our main topic of the day. We are talking so you sent me this article. I had seen it. I hadn't read it. By Samuel James called Why Christian Men Need Friendship, Not Just Accountability. And so we'll talk about the article. I think our discussion will be broader than the article is my guess.
Sure.
But as longtime listeners of the pod will know, this has been a recurring theme that we come back to regularly.
Yeah.
Articles and books and just discussions about friendship, and in particular about male friendship. And so, why don't you tell us a little bit about this article?
So the article is framed this way: that he uses the term in evangelical spaces, which I don't necessarily care for that framing, but I understand what he's saying, right? In evangelical churches, men get together for accountability. And he doesn't love that term. And
the term accountability.
The term accountability, and explains why.
Okay.
And says what we really need is not accountability. We need friendships, and we need deeper friendships. And more friendships, and not people checking in. We need people who are there for the long term. is sort of his basic argument. And he would say that true friendship has accountability baked into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that a fair summation?
I think so. I mean, I do think I agree with his point that if you think about in terms of men's groups or even just talking about men's discipleship or, that sort of thing, he makes the point that a big focus of that over the last, I don't know, call it 20 years maybe, 30 years, I don't know, has been on accountability. And that even naming groups like this is an accountability group or this is your accountability partner. It's interesting to me how he highlights we don't talk that way about women.
Yep.
That women's groups are fellowship groups or other things. And like you're hard-pressed probably to find a church that has a women's accountability group named that way, or that there's a structure in the church where women have accountability partners. They might have other names for those people, but I think that gets to the larger point of if you frame it specifically and primarily as accountability, it has a negative framework. It has a sort of inherent distrust built into it. And again, he's not anti-accountability. I think that should be clear. He's not like, no, accountability is terrible. No, it's not the end-all and be-all that it's sometimes framed to be.
Well, and to have a relationship built around that isn't sustainable, I think is part of his point.
Yeah. And it ironically, I think, undermines, I'd say, the building of a deep friendship. If the focus is largely on accountability. And again, it's not that men don't need other guys in their lives to, hold them accountable at some level. Sure, of course, that's valuable, but just the whole framing of it is something that I think James is onto something by stressing the best versions of that come within friendships.
Oh yeah,
where there's a deeper bond than just, did you do this week? Oh, you did. Or did you not do this week? Oh, you didn't. That it's more than just a checklist. It's more than just that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah. And he doesn't necessarily get into – well, he does get into this, but male friendships is something that we've talked on the pod before are on the decline. And I don't know. I don't know how churches would produce male friendship groups. That sounds terrible, just as a program title.
Yeah. You could never call it that.
We could never call it that. It'd have to be called something else or –
yeah.
But he tries at some level to go like, man, maybe the male friendships, we need to see these not as time with the boys or out goofing off or doing dumb things with your friends, but as deep spiritual formation sort of things.
Right. I think his point there is sometimes – maybe I'll have to go back and find the reference there, but sometimes women can look at those as like, oh, you're just, avoiding being at home and goofing off with the guys.
Yes.
And not seeing value in actually building and sustaining those friendships. Now, let's all acknowledge that, of course, men could do that to the neglect of their family responsibilities. Not saying that. If a guy's out 3 days a week during the summer golfing for, 5-6 hours after work with his buddies.
Yeah.
He's probably neglecting his wife at some level. Fair enough. But I think that so that to me, that is part of the issue is, and I don't know, I guess I just don't know enough. Maybe now, I just don't know if this is an issue though. Like, are there women out there, maybe there are, who are like, my husband is spending too much time with his buddies and I'm being neglected. I'm sure there are. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I don't feel like I'm in spaces where I see that or I'm aware of that. Are you?
No. I mean, I think some of that is a self-selection of who I talk to regularly, you know. Now I tend to hear like my husband's at work too much but not you know, out every weekend with his buddies. Probably work too much more than the other, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that some of that too depends on like, well, who are the buddies the guy's hanging out with too, right?
Sure.
Are they actually, you know, brothers in Christ? Or, you know, and it is fair to wonder like, okay, inevitably a man is shaped by who he spends time with. And so you hope that if they're spending time with other guys, that it's a good positive shaping, not a negative sort of shaping, right?
Yeah.
So another thing that this article mentions, and I think this is part of the tension, you know, earlier you mentioned you're not going to see a church that promotes a program called male friendship groups. Like, it's just not going to happen, and understandably so. But how does a church try to facilitate this? Because here's the reality. It feels like at one level it needs to be organic.
Yeah.
But the article makes a good point of you've got some people who are by bent and inclination much more introverted. And so if you don't have some structures in place, those guys might never have a contact just because they're just not the kind of person who just naturally strikes up conversations with other guys and like starts that process of building a friendship. So I guess the challenge is
I don't know.
What do you do as a church to help facilitate that?
I really don't know. I don't think I've ever – I'm trying to think, have I ever been to a men's anything ever?
Well, I mean –
I've been to small groups that have been more –
And I mean in college obviously there were events that were guy specific.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But yeah, I've not – I mean our church has quarterly, I think
it's quarterly, yeah.
Men's gatherings. I've never been to one. Have you?
Nope. I've never been to one.
I haven't either. And this is not – look, I want to be very careful here. I think it's a fine thing that they do it. I think it's good.
And I think they get pretty good attendance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just not drawn to that. And cards on the table here, I feel like I got my friends. Like, not that I'm like being antisocial and be like, well, I don't want to make friends with anybody else, anybody new. But I feel like I'm at a stage in life where I've largely got my close friends, the people that I am more, you know, what's the word? That I share more of what's going on in my life than other people.
Yeah.
And I don't feel the need to add to that. Now, that can seem selfish, I think, and I want to be aware of that.
And I think that's a forgive this term. That's an old man tendency, right?
I do think
to go.
That's right.
I don't mean that to be offensive. To go like I'm good. Don't need any new people or younger folk or you know fill in the blank.
Yeah. Now the twist on that is I get a new crop of students every year, so I'm constantly around new students.
Yeah.
And I do build friendships with some of those students, not all of them, but some of them that continue on after they graduate. But and so it's not like and this is part of the challenge for me, is I have that context through being a professor here at Grace.
Mm-hmm.
And that already sort of stretches and tests the limits of my relational capacities. And so to add additional pieces within the local church becomes very difficult for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I both time and even just, again, relational capacity. Like I can't be I'm just wired, I think, in a certain way in terms of I can't be super close to a large number of people. I don't think many people can actually do that.
Yeah. I feel similar with my role, right? Like I have donors that I get close to and talk to regularly, and I feel like my cup can be empty for relational capacity.
Yeah. But so just because I don't avail myself of these men's gatherings and you don't avail yourself, we're not saying, well, they're a bad thing or they're an unnecessary thing.
No.
I think they're fine. I think that's a good thing. I think it's an opportunity for men in the church to get to know each other. And again, I go back to, because I'm sympathetic to the person who's more of a naturally bent introvert. It is way easier for that kind of person to show up at a planned event than it is to say, well, just identify somebody in the congregation and go up and strike up a conversation with them after church.
Yeah.
That's a bigger ask.
I also think there's a difference for the man who's working in a secular environment and feels a greater need for Christian relationship than, where you and I work at a Christian organization. Most of the people we interact with on a regular basis are going to be roughly to some degree claim the same theology, worldview that you and I claim.
Yeah.
And to the guy that's over at a local tech company is going to have a very different experience and may need more of an outlet for Christian relationship.
I think that's fair. I also think in these kinds of discussions, there are two kinds of extremes in terms of, and I've been on the receiving end of this, and it's been very off-putting. There's on the one hand, you get someone who is like very ministry-minded, and so they think of like, I'm going to be intentional about building a relationship with that person, and they come on way too strong on the spiritual end of things.
Yeah.
Like first time we're meeting and it's, asking very personal, revealing kinds of questions. They're like, I don't really know you that well, so I'm not really sure I want to open the door that much to you yet. Like maybe down the road I'm comfortable talking about that, but not the first conversation I'm having with you. That's one extreme. The other extreme is we just get together and talk about sports and about, politics, or we go out and golf, or we play, disc golf or whatever, all fine things, and never talk about spiritual things and never have any measure of intentional conversation about how is your spiritual life going?
Yeah.
How's your marriage going? What's been difficult for you? How can I pray for you? What challenges are you facing?
Well, and that kind of gets at one of the ways I think churches could get at the male friendship crisis is through other things. So one of the ways that I think I've built a good amount of relationships in our church is through my fantasy baseball group. Mm-hmm. It's a group of, I think, 12, mostly a part of our church guys that love baseball, that text regularly. Mm-hmm. And pray for one another. If there's a prayer request, we'll actually send it out to the fantasy baseball group. When our pastor's daughter had an appendix thing recently, my goodness, that was in our fantasy baseball group chat.
Yeah.
And so I think by calling it something else or having it organized around another thing entirely.
Yeah.
But on the person in your basement asking way too personal questions, I've been on the couch watching it happen. Doc, what's your feeling about this super controversial theological issue? And I know you're more comfortable with that than the deeply personal issue.
Yeah.
But
tell me what the hardest thing in your marriage has been.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I just don't know you that well yet.
What's your middle name?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, that's more of like a 7th or 8th date kind of question, not a first date question, if I can use that framework.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so, I think I do think it's a challenge. And I think here, if the numbers are to be believed, if there's a growing number of men coming into the church, then this issue is going to be even more pressing, I think, in terms of addressing that. Because, I feel like I've seen it, and I don't know, this is – when you're young, you think you're just going to be able to build friendships easily, and there's going to be all these opportunities to build friends. And for most people, that's just not the case. Like high school and then college, you're in an environment typically where you have just seemingly endless opportunities to build friendships. But then you leave those contexts and you get older and it gets harder. And I think there's also the dynamic, and I'm sure you've experienced this, for couples. It's challenging to find couple friends.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Where it's inevitably what happens is either the guys really click and the women are like, or it's the other way around where the women are just like clicking and the guys are like, whatever. It's hard to find couple friends where where both
very difficult.
The husband and the wife click with the other husband and wife. That's just not easy.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't know that there's easy answers, though. I do think you were onto something earlier. You made the joke about that's a very old man take, and that's true. I think it is harder the older that men get to get them to probably be intentional about building relationships with younger men in particular, I think.
Well, and I think for young people broadly, up until 22, 23, your whole life is about making friends, right? You go to junior high, right? Go make friends. You're in high school. You show up at college.
Yeah.
You have a friend void. You need friends.
Yeah.
And then, somewhere in your 30s, or maybe late 20s, you settle into a career, you're doing your thing, and all of a sudden you're like, I got my people.
Yeah.
I'm good. You sort of hit your capacity.
Yeah.
And then it can be tough to add. It's a lot easier to subtract out of that category, but it's a lot harder to add.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Well, and I think I really think most older men probably just are probably not equipped with the combination of desire and skills to do it well.
And I do
right?
think yes, I do think an age group that has to do it, and I think does it pretty well, is retired men.
Yeah.
The number of men that I'm like, yeah, I'm in 3 Bible studies and I play golf with the same group of guys every week.
But they are though. That's peer relationship.
Yes.
That's not necessarily relating to younger guys in the congregation.
Correct.
Which I think is another piece to this, that even another layer to it is that it's not just even obviously it's good and helpful and valuable to have those peer relationships.
Yeah.
But really the church also needs some of those more, for lack of a better term, at least loosely, discipleship or mentoring kind of relationships where you've got, the guy in his 50s or 60s who's getting together with the guy in his late 20s or early 30s and able to maybe share a little bit of life wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
That kind of thing. where it's not going to be probably especially reciprocal. It's going to be a little bit more one direction in terms of.
Oh yeah. Other than the young person communicating the recent jargon.
That's right. So, again, I think there are no simple solutions, but I do think some measure of intentionality is necessary. And again, I think even though they're not my thing, I think it's good for a church to have opportunities for men to gather around activities typically, because that's, I think, how men most naturally start to build those relational connections with each other. Is not we're all going to come together and we're just going to talk about stuff in our life. Most guys are like, yeah, no thanks. But if you're like, we're going to get together and we're going to do some axe throwing. Again, not my thing. Or, we're going to do something, someone's going to have a devotional and we'll hang out. Okay. That tends to have a little bit better chance of, I think, producing some lasting benefits.
Yeah. Not a fan of the axe throwing.
I've never done it.
I've never done it either, but I'd prefer like, hey, let's sit around a campfire and chat or.
But most guys aren't like that.
No, they're not.
I mean, they want to have some activity, right? Even if it's a dumb one. Like, that's part of the thing about, like, guys can get together and do dumb things.
Yeah.
But it's an activity. So anyway. All right. Time now for this day in sports history.
All right. This day in sports history, April what's tomorrow? The 8th?
Yeah.
April 8th.
Yeah.
Year's already a quarter over.
It is. Yeah. We're through March.
So, wow. It's moving. I feel like we have this conversation every week. Like, man, year's going fast.
How far are we away from isn't there's a day every year where they're like, oh, now officially today you've paid off your tax burden and now the rest of the year you make money for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
There's a day that they announced that. We're not there yet, are we?
I don't think so. Maybe not. I don't know.
I have taxes on my mind if you can't tell.
Yeah, clearly. I got I'm getting a refund this year, by the way.
Are you really?
I learned yesterday. I'll tell you how fair about it. Yeah.
I am not getting a refund.
1896.
Going in the Wayback Machine.
Yeah. First modern Summer Olympic Games opens in Athens, Greece. American athlete James Connolly becomes the first modern Olympic champion when he wins the triple jump, then 2 hops and a jump. Later places third in long jump and second in high jump.
So he has some hops, apparently.
He liked to jump.
He did like to jump.
1958, 22nd U.S. Masters Tournament. Augusta National Golf Course, Arnold Palmer wins his first of 4 Master titles, 1 stroke ahead of Doug Ford and Fred Hawkins. First of his 7 major titles.
Okay.
Hard to believe he only won 7.
It is hard to believe, yeah.
Right? Because what's Jack at? 20?
That was 18.
18?
And Tiger has 15.
That sounds right. I would have expected Arnie to be in double digits.
I would have too.
1974, in the home opener in Atlanta, Hank Aaron breaks Babe Ruth's career record by hitting his 715th home run, connecting off Al Downing of L.A. In the 4th inning.
Yeah.
Hammer and Hank.
Yeah, famous footage. Those 2 guys just come out of nowhere and
are patting him on the back and
like kind of a scary situation initially. Like, what are these guys doing on the field? Like, why are they out there?
Yeah. 2001, Tiger Woods claims the greatest feat in modern golf by winning the Masters, giving him a clean sweep of the 4 professional majors in a span of 294 days. Woods, with his winning score of 16 under par, 272, sweeps the majors with a combined score of 65 under par.
Yeah.
But not in the same calendar year, right? I mean,
correct. So it
was all within a year.
Correct. So he didn't win the Masters the year before. So he won the it would have been U.S. Open, British Open, It's Players Championship, right? Is it the fourth?
PGA Championship.
PGA Championship
Was the fourth. Now I think it's third. It's the order switched.
And then the following year, he won the Masters.
That's
so
right.
he won four in a row, just not in the same calendar year.
Yeah. All right. I got a weird update on my phone I'd like to tell you about right now.
Okay.
I've been added to a Signal group chat.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're privy to some national security information?
It just said hi. So we'll see.
So you know where we're bombing the Houthis?
Yeah, maybe. 2004 23rd NCAA Women's Basketball Championship. Connecticut beats Tennessee 70-61. UConn's Diana Taurasi is named Most Outstanding Player for the second straight year.
Yeah, and then UConn won the national title this weekend for the women's.
That's right. Without Diana Taurasi, obviously.
Yeah.
They had Paige Buchers. Is that how you pronounce that name?
I think so.
Okay. She's apparently very good. I had not heard of her until this year.
Yeah.
Okay. 2012, Bubba Watson saves par from the pine straw and wins the Masters on the second hole of a playoff over, oh my goodness, Louis Oosthuizen. I messed that up. Oosthuizen. Okay. Trapped among the trees 155 yards from the hole and not able to see the green. The left-hander hit a huge hook and lands the ball safely on the 10th green. He two putts for par to capture his first major victory.
Yeah. Okay.
I remember that. It had a big hook in it.
Yeah.
Big hook.
Okay. Little side note here. So my oldest son, Mr. Anti-Masters, like you said, he's come around. But he texted me and his brother.
Okay.
Hypothetical. I want to throw this out to you since we're talking the Masters.
Okay.
Do you think you could win the Masters
No.
if you started on the farthest edge of the green every hole? So the rest of the field is starting like at the tee box, and you're starting like farthest on the green away from the hole, and you're just putting. Do you think you could win?
No.
You're absolutely correct. Yes. I told my sons, I don't think the three of us playing best ball could do it. So anyway. All right. So who do you like out of that?
I like Hammer and Hank.
Really?
Who do you like?
I was going to go Bubba.
You could go Bubba.
I mean, I feel like we've had Hammer and Hank before.
Have we?
We've never had Bubba. But if you want to go Hammer and Hank, I mean, his accomplishment is obviously the more historically significant one.
Yeah.
You want to go Hank?
I like Hank Aaron.
All right. Hammer and Hank it is. One thing you liked.
I heard about this week. I did not experience it, but I heard about it and I thought it was worth bringing to the table.
Okay.
So far from me to say something positive about a National League East team, but the Washington Nationals have a new hot dog stand.
All right. What's special about this hot dog stand?
This hot dog stand creates a hot dog based on the visiting team's city. So, if you can imagine, Philadelphia was visiting over the week. They had a hot dog with basically all the Philly cheesesteak stuff you could want. Peppers, cheese whiz, all that stuff on a hot dog.
So just without the actual like steak?
Without the steak, yes. Okay. That's my understanding.
Okay.
And they plan to do this for every visiting team for the entire year.
So for the Reds, are they going to go with Skyline? Are they going to ship Skyline in?
I don't know if they'll ship Skyline in or if they'll reproduce it somehow.
Okay.
I don't know how all that works, but the concept was phenomenal.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, the question is, when the Dodgers come to town, what do you do? Do you do a Dodger dog? Because that's really just a hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you do something L.A., Korean fusion sort of?
Yeah.
Or do you do that when San Francisco comes to town? You see the dilemma here.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there are greater minds than ours are making those decisions.
I don't know if they're greater. They're probably more focused on this issue.
That's certainly true. And yeah.
Doesn't that sound like a great concept,
It
though?
does sound like a good concept, yeah.
I mean, what if you could pick a city to get a hot dog that was sort of shaped in the image of that city, what would it be? What city would it be?
I don't know. I mean,
This is a great get-to-know-you question.
yeah. I mean, what would you put in a Chicago dog?
I mean, Chicago kind of has a hot dog, right?
Yeah.
It's mustard. It's got the full pickle spear, onions,
Yes,
you know.
that's not my jam. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, what would the Cleveland one be? I mean, that's an American League team, so they're probably not visiting this year. But
Well, they're doing more and more. So the Mets opened their series against the Houston Astros,
okay,
and their home opener was against the Toronto Blue Jays.
True.
Right? Two. But what would you do for the city of Toronto?
yeah, I don't know.
You put poutine on a hot dog?
Yes, that's exactly.
That's
what you do.
exactly.
That's exactly.
That sounds
what you
really
do.
good. But Cleveland, I think you're right. Pastrami maybe. I don't know.
I don't know, but you know you're going to be hearing from Nate in Ohio about it.
Yeah. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what cities around that have MLB teams. Don't give me like, well, in Toledo we do X, Y, and Z. Like, okay.
Yeah. All right. So over the weekend, I finished a book that my wife has been encouraging me to read. Finally got around to it.
My wife likes this book.
Where the Crawdads Sing. Have you read it?
I have not. I
Okay.
have not. Andrea has.
See, here's the thing, and I don't want to give away spoilers.
It's a bit of a mystery, right?
It is. I found the ending to be it's a nice twist. I'll give them that. But it seemed implausible. I'll put it that way. It did not seem plausible to me. So I can see why people enjoy it. It's a good book. I wouldn't call it a great book, but it was good. But, you know, to make the one thing you like, you don't have to be great. Just typically have to be good. All right. So that is my one thing I liked. All right, John, we have talked about college basketball. We've talked about baseball. We've talked about why Christian men need friendship. We have talked about hammerin' Hank Aaron. We have talked about the Washington Nationals doing their hot dog stand. We've talked about where the Crawdads sing. And so I think, by definition, we have covered our various and sundry topics. And so all that's left to say is, until next time, the Lord bless you all real good.
Later.